What up, folks? What it do? Welcome to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast with your boy, Mike Goodwin, the bow-tied comedian. As I start off each and every episode, I start off with the On the Road Again segment. Well, I wasn't on the road. I was at the house. The spring break is coming up, so I had a week to basically decompress. 'Cause my schedule, man, I go. I've been going. So the way my schedule is kind of built right now is you got to get a rest when you can get a rest. I kind of have some places scheduled, but for the most part, I strike with the iron's hot, and then when the iron is unplugged, I'm unplugged. So I have a couple of weeks. Now I already knew I was going to take spring break, but the week before spring break, that was open. That was open, and then we had like the business. We had our TSP business mastermind a week ago. So I kind of looked at that time frame. It was like, oh, here's an opportunity to get a little breathing room. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm at the house, chilling, doing what I do. Also, my son had a play this week. It was a Shakespearean play. Now my son's in the 7th grade. This was one of those times as a moment as a parent. I'm failing my child. Like I don't know. So we went to this play. It was on a Wednesday night, and it was Shakespeare for 7th and 8th grade students, which I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think Shakespeare. I'm not a Shakespeare expert. My relationship with Shakespeare is Romeo and Juliet. I remember that from the 9th grade. And I'd even written kind of my take on Romeo and Juliet back then. But in middle school, Shakespeare seems a little much. Also, Othello's kind of in my wheelhouse. Lady Macbeth is in my, but A Midnight Summer Dream is not in my wheelhouse. That's what they did, and I'm a little. I need to go and figure out what the play was about. I think, but then there's the other side of it also, where raising children is difficult. It's a difficult endeavor, and I think that it gives me an opportunity to have some conversations around some topics that I may not have been wanting to have a conversation about this early in the game. But the play was very confusing because they did it in Shakespearean language and they did it twice. So the teacher cast like 7th graders in the first run, and that went from 7 to 8-ish. I think they both were out. I couldn't do both. I didn't do both. My son was in both, and I popped in to see his parts, but whoo, it was a lot, and I'm still processing that. It was a lot. The other thing that's a lot as it relates to me is staying on my meal plan, meal prepping. The way that our life is set up, neither I or my wife cooks regularly. Now, over the last few years, I've always loved food. I'm not gonna say I'm a foodie. I'm not that guy. I'm not the person that is out here with all the recommendations. I like what I like, but I'm not gonna be the guy where you say, when you go to Orlando, make sure. Hey, when you go to Columbia, like I have things I like, and I can tell you if you ask me, hey, we're coming to Columbia, what some places you recommend? I do that, but as I travel around, I'm just not like, hey, you gotta take me to the spot. And what often happens when people do, because people are really, there's very few moments where you get to host folks. And so when I come in and do an event, people are hosting you and they want to number one, they want you to have a good experience. Then they want to favorably show you their city where they live. And most times there's an opportunity to take you to get something to eat. And typically, if they taking you to a place, uh, one of those shows from the Food Networks, I'm not even anything past. So if I don't even know why we still pay for Spectrum. I don't. I think we just like burning money because I don't watch. I could tell you like the all the channels I watch. I watch 206, 207, 208, 209. So I think that's all the ESPNs. That's the ESPN regular, the ESPN2, U, News. I think that's the little box. Then 215 is the NBA station. I'll go back and get in like five like whatever the ABC 19, 25, 10. I don't know if those numbers always don't line up. 57. So I'll typically watch those stations. Also watch 245, which is TNT. So that's NBA. And then TBS is somewhere around there, especially when it's March Madness. So 245, 243, 246, somewhere in that little grouping. And then outside of that, the NBA League Pass. And those are typically 750, 760, somewhere. Now I do have 611s in there because that's the SEC network. Then there's also probably a 230 that's like Fox Sports type deal. Those are all the stations I really watch. Like no VHS one, no MTV, no Bravo, no TLC, definitely not Food Network, not anything with home HGTV. So when people take me to the reason I got into this long channel conversation was because when people take you to a restaurant, they'll typically reference, oh, this restaurant was on Dives and Diners or Bars and Dars or whatever the name of those shows are that are traveling food restaurant shows. So if there are places like that in town, people will try to take me there. Now, and I enjoy them. I'm all about it. But I love food. And therefore, loving food, I have over the years, and I think I didn't grow up cooking, which is kind of unfortunate. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and I don't think she wanted the headache to try to teach me to cook because I was always trying to get out of work. So she probably didn't want to take the time to say, hey, little dude, let me show you how I burn in this kitchen. So I've watched my mother cook, my grandmother cook, my other grandmother cook. I've been around the kitchen. I wash dishes. I'm not one of those folks when I was being raised. There's some folks that say boys should not be in the kitchen. Now that was like a whole kind of misogynistic theme that we were raised up under. Boys shouldn't be boys should be outside, boys should be cutting grass, they be doing manly things. They should not be in the kitchen. That's kind of the vibes that was happening around that time. It was a wild time that I grew up in, but it's a wild time right now. In saying that, I didn't really learn to cook per se. I could always make something to eat. Like Akatunde, a mentor of mine, he talks about the difference between cooking and making something to eat. I think even Marcus Wiley has an idea about that. It's the same macaroni and cheese or hamburger helper versus making a meatloaf. And so I could always make something to eat. I'm going to get something to eat, fix something to eat wasn't necessarily a cook, but over the years, I was single for a moment in time in my life. I wasn't single very long. I was single from 18 to 23, maybe 25. I need to look back what age was I when I got married. I think I was 25. Yeah. 18 to 25. That's not a tremendous amount long. That's not a long, long time as a single man. I was single, but I definitely wasn't single. I wasn't single for a decade. Now, if you're single for a decade, you a dude, you got to get in that kitchen and really throw down and really get it in. Or you just making a lot of money when you spending money on buying takeout. Now, that being said, I enjoy cooking. So I was in the I don't it's I don't, it's interesting. It's very interesting. I enjoy cooking. My family enjoys my cooking. I want cooking. I want to cook unencumbered. So when I start cooking and I cook and I enjoy it, and I want people to enjoy my food, then it becomes this type of expectations, and I want expectation free cooking, and maybe that'll help my wife to get more cooking out of me. Like if you just let me cook and you're not like, ooh, when you gonna make it next? Ooh, we can't wait. Daddy's gonna when the expectations, I gotta expect high expectation life. I don't need the things that I do for relaxation, rest and relaxation, to come with expectations. People expect a lot from me in general, so I think that's why there's a little bit of there's a little bit of a blockage or hurt. I would cook more, I think, if that expectation wasn't floating in the atmosphere. Will you let me get in that kitchen and I do a little bit. My wife be like, you could do this every day. I'm like, oh, here we go with the expectations. So that's why I don't cook as much as I desire to cook, but I really do enjoy cooking. But because we're so busy, I'm not able to cook. My wife's not able to cook as much as we would probably like to cook. So we have to get food from other places. And I typically, when I'm home, I get food from this young lady that's a chef, and I have to pay her through Venmo. Now, I've talked about this. I don't think on the podcast. I'm very stubborn. There's some things that if you require of me, I'm gonna do them. But then if I'm trying to figure out like why we keep doing this, then I'm gonna go off. I'm gonna go off into the weeds. Like if there's some, I'm I that's where the bow tie is. The bow tie is a representation of I'm going to do things by the book. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna have a suit on. I'm gonna have on a dress shirt, but my necktie is gonna be just a little bit there. That's just the way I am. If you know me, there's gonna be a little bit of rebellious nature. I'm a contrarian. I'm a maverick. If everybody's going left, I'm going right. That's just the nature of who I am. One of my avid listeners, a friend of mine, we went to college together. He always talks about this group that I went to a meeting a few times because that's how I am. Like, if everybody's over at the other group, I'm gonna go to this group and see what they talking about. Now, I didn't have any long term connections to this group. I just wanted to see, hey man, everybody's over there. Let me go over here, and that's just the nature. You could even probably say that about my comedy. Like, man, why is this black dude in all these white spaces? That's the nature of who I am. If everybody's over there, I'm gonna go see what's going on over here. Now, I'm not saying I don't go over there because I go over there. I be over there too. I kick it over there, but I like to go and do things the way that I like to go and do things. And so that's just the nature of who I am. And Venmo requires me to my stubbornness to come out. Because in Venmo, when you buy something, they're in your business. And so I grew up at a time, man, you'll tell people your business. Like what happens in your house stays in your house because there was some bad stuff happening in the house. We should have been telling somebody. But it was bad stuff. People said, I just grew up on the mantra of keep folks out your business. Keep people. Don't nobody need to know our business. I can't believe you put my business on Front Street. None of your bit. That's in the DNA of Mike Goodwin is to keep people out his business. That's why social media is a little bit of a challenge for me. That's why podcasting. That's why, like, I want to go on stage. I kind of want the celebrity of the 80s and the 90s where it was mysterious. You didn't know what people were doing away from their profession. Nobody knew what uh, Andre Andrew Dice Clay. I don't know anything about his life. I don't know anything about Rodney Dangerfield's life. I don't know how many kids he have. I don't know if he's married. I didn't know anything about Eddie Murphy's life. I just knew that he was a funny man on stage. I loved him in Saturday Night Live. I loved the stand up, but I didn't know how many wives Eddie had. I didn't know what car he was driving. I just knew when he showed up on the television screen, I was very appreciative. So now we live in the social media era, and people they want to know where you live, how many kids you have, what do you do in your downtime? And I'm just like, hey man, ain't none of your business. And people like, all right, you right. I'm gonna go over here and see somebody who will let me know what they like. And so it's a little bit of a disconnect because I'm on to stay out my business situation. But in Venmo, when you purchase stuff, Venmo says, hey man, Mike Goodwin, tell us your business. Now I could make it private, but that's a little that little click, that's too much click. I don't want to be private. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not a clandestine. I want this to be public. I want this to be known. I just don't want you to know what I'm doing and what I'm doing with my money. Venmo just give me access and authorization to buy these meals because that's what I'm doing. I'm buying meals, but because I'm who I am, if you're on Venmo and you see my stuff, it's ridiculous because I've stopped following rules on Venmo. They ask me for a description of what I'm buying. I don't say meals anymore. Nope, nope. I say stuff like none ya, like none your business. That's what I say. I say things like hot dog sauce. I sure do. What else have I written? Stupid dope moves. I've told Venmo that's what I was purchasing. I'm on this kind of Harry Potter kick. I've taken a break, but I'm back when I was a little strong. I said I was buying the Golden Stitch. I was buying some Harry Potter styled spectacles. What is going on with Harry Potter's glasses in which they never stay broke? Like they stay on his face. It's the most craziest thing. As a glass person wearer, or a wearer of glasses, I'm astonished how this boy keeps those glasses on his face through whatever he goes through, whatever monster or or, or situation he finds himself in. Those glasses right there on his face. I've also said I paid for hip hop dance classes. I paid for eggs, jalapeno flavored ice cubes. I've done that. One of my favorite is Directions to Sesame Street. That's what I. Ah, that's just who I am, man. Also, happy Easter to you, those of you that are believers in the tradition of Easter. I'm a Christian, so This is like the Super Bowl, separate from Christmas. This is a big deal. It's always been a big deal. It's become a little less of a deal in terms of like how it impacts my life. Like I can remember as a child, it was Easter was absolutely paramount to my existence because I had to learn the speech. I don't know when I stopped learning an Easter speech, and the speeches got longer. Like the classic one. I just want to come and say Happy Easter Day. Like if there's nothing else, like the little kid get up there and they just be looking at people. Just say I want to say Happy Easter Day, and people clap. But no, I had long my joints was like stanzas, and I'm like, is this the Gettysburg Address that I got to present to the church tomorrow? But I was feeling good because you got some new clothes, and I wasn't, it wasn't a lot of moments in my time in childhood we got new clothes, but Easter was the haircut. I'm talking about from the shoes to the suit. I'm talking about he probably even knew underwear. Like it was going down for Easter. Easter, you was stunting on Easter. Easter was the day everybody, your yellows were a little yellower, your pinks, your pastels were popping, your haircut was on point, you had a dinner, family dinner. Oh, it's just a glorious Easter Sunday. Shoot. Now, especially if you knew your speech. If you didn't know your speech, you was out here struggling. You was out here not having a good day. But if you knew your speech, you killed your speech. Everybody give you all the speech props. Oh, great job on your speech. Oh, you look so handsome. Oh, shout out to old school Easter. Now, the best advice of the day is something that I said last week, and I think it resonated, and I wanted to spend some time talking about it today. And I'm even thinking about how I get to the segment, the best advice ever. I was giving kind of general advice that I've heard over the years, but now I'm gonna make this more specific to advice I've gotten, and it's impacted my life. And this is a piece of advice I've gotten as an entrepreneur, and it wasn't very long ago. It was probably 6 years ago. My wife, shout out to Rosalind, is the founder, and I don't know her title because her and my daughter but she's the founder of of Confidence by Gabby Both, and she introduced me to this entrepreneur business community. And again, the guy I talked about a week ago, Lamont Tyler, Lamont Lamar Tyler, basically looked out at a group of African American entrepreneurs and said, "No one is coming to save you. No one's coming to save your business. No one's coming to help you grow and scale your business. No one is coming to save you." And that's some of the best advice ever I've gotten. No one's coming to save you. There's an attitude, or I say spirit of entitlement, where especially as a comedian, and I'm gonna speak specifically as an artist. We start, and I've seen it time and time again. Unfortunately, when you start out and you don't have a lot of guidance and mentorship, this thing that you created, this stand up, this artwork, this music, it impacts people, and people are like, "Oh my God, I really love your song, your set." And then you get this mindset. It just something happens where you like, who's coming to sign me? Who's coming to put me on their platform? It happened to me, and I'm going to talk specifically about me, because when you start talking in general, people are, well, that's not. I'm tell you about what happened with me. I started doing stand up on the suggestion of another comedian. A comedian said, "Hey man, you should get on stage." And when I started getting favorable returns, when my shows were getting better, I started thinking somebody was coming to make me famous. Somebody was gonna come and make me successful. I'm gonna open up for this guy. He's gonna take me on tour with him. He's gonna introduce me to all the people that he knows in the industry, and then his manager is gonna sign me, and then I'm gonna be a new client. And none of that happened. None of that happened. I was even thinking about when I met Michael Jr., who's a comedian that I have great admiration for, and he's super humble, super successful, super hilarious. But I met him, we kicked it off great, and then he told me, "Hey man, we're gonna do some work together. We should." So then there was an idea about a podcast that we were gonna create, and you would have thought, personally, I thought Michael Jr. was coming to save me. We're gonna do this podcast. It's gonna blow up. I'm on fire. Life is grand and gravy. And it didn't work out the way that I thought it was gonna work out. I've been on his podcast and we've done a number of things together, but I was sitting around waiting for him to knight me into success. And that's not what happens, people. You need to have your own vision separate from anybody else. No one's coming to save you. Stop waiting for a seat at the table. Build your own table. There's something I often put on social media every now and in my stories. Put your own self on. Stop waiting. There's advocates. There's people that's going to open doors for you. There's people going to speak on your behalf. That has happened time and time and time again for me. That's not a doubt. That's without a doubt. But it doesn't happen in the time frame in which you want it to happen. So stop thinking somebody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save you. Do it. You don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to wait for all the resources. My pastor said something today. There's never a perfect time to do something when you're doing it in faith. Like there's never gonna be a perfect time to buy a home. Oh, the interest rates are high. Oh, I remember when I was leaving my job to do comedy full time. I was saying, well, hey, this next class, they have a biggest senior upcoming junior class. They're big, so get those guys through and get them graduated, and then I'll be able to. And my pastor was like, hey, there's never going to be a perfect time. There's always going to be something that seems like an obstacle. And if you just look for obstacles, they're going to continuously show up. So the best advice ever today to you is simply that no one's coming to save you, separate from your salvation. And but that's not this type of podcast. If you want to talk about a relationship with Jesus Christ, we can send me your information at info@mikegoodwin.com. Or go talk to somebody, a church. Find a church leader, someone in your area. So you know somebody that's walking the life of faith. Separate from that, no one's coming to save you. Even young ladies, I was thinking about this, and this might be a new bit. Where I talk about, we kind of talk the women like he's my knight in shining armor. Ladies, who you think gonna shine the armor if y'all hook up? If y'all get together, you're gonna be shining the armor. Nobody's coming to you. There's work that's required at whatever you're trying to accomplish. So go ahead and knock that out and do your thing. Hey man, thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. I'm your host, Mike Goodwin. This happens every Wednesday. If you have a question, shoot in your questions to info@mikegoodwin.com. Follow me on social media. I'm at Bowtie Comedian on Instagram and Twitter. And on Facebook, I'm at Comedian Mike Goodwin. Share like, subscribe, let folks know what I got going on. But again, thank y'all so much for checking in with me this week. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate it. I'll see you next week. Peace.